The Galactic Empire was a marvel of interstellar cooperation, a coalition of countless alien species bound by a single unshakable principle: diplomacy over violence. For millennia, this ethos had guided the Empire, fostering peace and stability through negotiation and mutual benefit. To outsiders, it seemed unbreakable, a web of alliances so intricate that any conflict was diffused before a single shot could be fired. War was considered not just unnecessary, but primitive, a relic of less enlightened times. Within this system, the Vrax stood as one of the Empire's most powerful and influential species. Ancient, technologically superior, and proud, they were the architects of many of the Empire's foundational policies. Their dominance was uncontested, their word often treated as law. But even the Vrax respected the process of negotiation, relying on it to ensure their continued supremacy without resorting to brute force. Humans were the anomaly. A species barely a century into faster-than-light travel, they had recently been admitted to the Empire as a minor member state. Technologically, they were laughably outmatched. Their homeworld, Earth, was resource-rich but strategically insignificant. Yet there was something about humanity that made other species uneasy. Perhaps it was their rapid adaptation to new challenges, or the way they approached problems with an unpredictability that defied logic. While most new member species sought to integrate seamlessly into the Empire, humans seemed content to observe, learn, and quietly bide their time. For years, Earth participated in the Empire's diplomatic affairs with minimal friction. They adhered to the protocols, nodded at the right moments, and contributed what little they could to the greater good. Other species saw them as harmless, even quaint, a young civilization eager to find its place among the stars. The Vrax, however, viewed humanity differently. They saw potential, not as equals, but as a resource to exploit. When the Vrax identified massive reserves of aqua titanium in Earth's oceans, a material vital to their energy systems, they saw an opportunity. With their vast influence, they brought the matter before the Galactic Council, demanding exclusive mining rights. Their representatives framed the request as a matter of survival, emphasizing the importance of aqua titanium to their species. The Council, as expected, supported the Vrax. The decision was unanimous: Earth would comply. The human delegation's response was anything but compliant. Without a word, they stood up and walked out of the council chamber. It was a simple act, but its implications were seismic. No species had ever outright refused the council's decision. For the Vrax, it was an insult; for the rest of the Empire, it was a mystery. The council chambers buzzed with speculation. Was this ignorance? Arrogance? A misunderstanding of the consequences? In the days that followed, Earth's silence only deepened the unease. Then, without warning, humanity made its intentions clear. Across every galactic communication channel, a message from Earth played on repeat. "We do not negotiate under threat. Come and take what you want, if you can." The words rippled through the Empire like a shockwave. Entire species paused their daily routines to replay the message, trying to decipher its tone. Was it a bluff? A declaration of war? Or something far more dangerous, an unshakable defiance that even the Vrax might not be prepared for? In the halls of the Galactic Council, chaos reigned. Diplomats scrambled to make sense of Earth's boldness. Some argued that the humans were bluffing, that they lacked the means to resist the Vrax. Others warned that humans might have hidden capabilities, their unpredictability masking a deeper, more sinister strategy. Whatever the case, one thing was clear: humanity was not behaving as expected. For the Vrax, the message was a challenge they couldn't ignore. Their pride demanded a response, and their confidence in their superiority left no room for doubt. Preparations for a punitive strike against Earth began immediately. Vrax officials assured the Council that the matter would be resolved swiftly. Earth would be brought to heel, and the natural order of the Empire would be restored. But even as the Vrax mobilized their fleet, a quiet unease settled over the Empire. For all their confidence, for all their technology and power, the Vrax were venturing into uncharted territory. Humanity had done something no other species had dared to do: they had refused to play by the rules of the Empire. And in doing so, they had introduced a new element to the galactic equation, one that no amount of diplomacy could predict or control. The message from Earth was received with shock, disbelief, and growing fear across the galactic empire. No species had ever rejected a ruling from the Council, much less delivered a challenge so direct. Among the alien species, whispers spread rapidly. What are the humans thinking? What could they possibly have that justifies this level of defiance? The Vrax, infuriated and insulted, prepared to respond. For them, this wasn't just about aqua titanium. It was about setting an example. If humanity's insolence went unanswered, it might inspire others to question the Empire's authority. The Vrax wasted no time. A fleet of their finest warships, bristling with weaponry far beyond anything humanity had encountered, began its journey to Earth. The galaxy watched with bated breath, confident that this would be a swift and decisive display of power. The Vrax had never lost a conflict. Their technology was unmatched, their strategies honed over centuries. A single message from their fleet's admiral was broadcast throughout the Empire, By the end of this campaign, humanity will beg for forgiveness. On Earth, there was no sign of panic, no desperate attempts to negotiate or capitulate. Instead, humanity's silence continued, unnerving even those who had no stake in the conflict. To the Vrax, this was a sign of weakness, a prey species frozen in fear, awaiting the inevitable. But as the fleet drew closer, their confidence began to waver. Human outposts on the edges of the Sol system went dark, not destroyed, but eerily silent. Vrax reconnaissance drones sent back distorted data or vanished entirely. It was as if the humans were toying with them. The first Vrax attack on Earth was not a grand assault but a probing strike, intended to test the planet's defenses. A group of their smaller ships entered Earth's orbit, scanning for weaknesses. What they found defied explanation. Human defensive systems didn't activate in the way the Vrax expected. Instead of a barrage of missiles or energy weapons, the Vrax ships encountered targeted disruptions in their systems. Communications were scrambled, sensors failed, and their ship's advanced AI began behaving erratically. One vessel even turned its weapons on itself, its crew powerless to stop it. This was not the response of a primitive species. It was calculated, precise, and deeply unsettling. Reports from the surviving Vrax ships detailed an experience unlike anything they had faced before. "The humans are studying us," one commander reported in a message intercepted by the Galactic Council. "They know exactly what we're doing, but we have no idea how." The Vrax doubled down. They launched a larger wave of attacks, this time deploying their most advanced warships and orbital siege weapons. Yet the results were the same. Human forces didn't engage in traditional battles. They struck from the shadows, dismantling supply lines, targeting weak points, and vanishing before retaliation could occur. Entire Vrax squadrons went missing, their ships later discovered adrift, their crews incapacitated but unharmed. Earth itself seemed to be part of the defense. The Vrax found themselves caught in natural phenomena they couldn't explain, gravitational anomalies, sudden bursts of electromagnetic interference, and asteroid fields that seemed to move with purpose. Whether this was a result of human ingenuity or sheer luck, the Vrax couldn't tell, and the uncertainty only added to their frustration. Back on the Vrax homeworld, the High Council convened to discuss the escalating situation. For the first time in their history, they were facing an enemy whose actions defied their understanding. Despite their overwhelming technological advantage, they were losing. Not in terms of casualties or destroyed ships, but in morale and control. The humans weren't just resisting, they were asserting dominance in ways the Vrax couldn't counter. The Galactic Council, watching from the sidelines, was deeply divided. Some species saw humanity's actions as reckless and self-destructive, proof that they were too dangerous to be allowed within the Empire. Others, however, began to see them as a beacon of resistance, a species willing to defy even the most powerful for the sake of their autonomy. Secretly, a few member species reached out to Earth, offering quiet support or simply trying to understand their motives. Meanwhile, The Vrax propaganda machine churned out stories of human brutality and barbarism, attempting to sway public opinion in the Empire. Yet, these efforts had the opposite effect. Reports from Vrax soldiers painted a different picture. Despite their advanced weapons and overwhelming force, they described the humans as almost surgical in their strikes, always leaving survivors to tell the tale. This was no act of barbarism. It was strategy. The final blow to the Vrax fleet's morale came not from a human weapon but from a message. After days of silence, Earth transmitted a single phrase to the Vrax flagship, *. Is this all you've got? *. The message was brief but devastating. It was not the bravado of a desperate species. It was a statement of confidence, a subtle indication that humanity had yet to reveal its full capabilities. For the Vrax, it was a psychological blow far greater than any physical attack. It forced them to confront a question they had never considered: what if the humans were holding back? Throughout the Empire, the fear of humanity grew. Species that once viewed Earth as an insignificant backwater now watched with trepidation. Rumors spread that the humans possessed weapons capable of dismantling entire fleets in an instant. Others whispered that Earth's leaders had long anticipated this conflict and had been preparing for it in secret. The truth was unknown, but the uncertainty was enough to paralyze even the most confident strategists. As the Vrax regrouped for what they hoped would be a decisive attack, a shift occurred in the Galactic Council. Some member species began to question the wisdom of the Empire's diplomacy-first approach. If humans, a species so new to the interstellar stage, could resist the Vrax, what did that say about the Empire's ability to maintain control? For the first time in centuries, the cracks in the Empire's unity began to show. The Vrax, however, were too consumed by their pride to see the larger implications. To them, this was still a battle they could win, a mistake they could correct. But as their fleet prepared to strike again, one thing became increasingly clear to everyone else: the humans weren't playing by the rules. And that made them the most dangerous force the galaxy had ever encountered. The Vrax fleet, though battered and increasingly disoriented, refused to retreat. Their pride, built on centuries of unbroken dominance, would not allow it. Reinforcements arrived, swelling their numbers to twice their original strength. These ships, freshly armed and manned by their most experienced crews, carried with them the hope of reclaiming their tarnished reputation. To the Vrax, this was no longer about resources or council edicts. It was about proving that their supremacy remained unshaken. As the fleet advanced once more toward Earth, they found the battlefield eerily quiet. The humans, who had previously harassed and undermined their efforts with surgical precision, seemed to have vanished. Vrax commanders interpreted this as a sign of humanity's desperation, believing their prey had exhausted its strength. With renewed confidence, the fleet pushed forward, tightening its formation and scanning for any signs of resistance. Then, without warning, chaos erupted. Vrax communication networks, meticulously encrypted and thought to be impenetrable, were infiltrated. Ships lost contact with one another as their systems were overridden by what appeared to be human programming. It wasn't an outright shutdown but a subtle, insidious interference that sowed confusion. Commands were delayed, coordinates altered, and targeting systems misaligned. Fleet coordination, the backbone of Vrax military strategy, dissolved in an instant. Amidst this turmoil, small human vessels emerged, darting between the larger Vrax warships like predatory fish among lumbering giants. These ships were unassuming by comparison, lacking the gleaming hulls and advanced energy weapons of their adversaries. But they were fast, agile, and disturbingly effective. They struck at critical points, disabling engines and weapons systems with precision that left Vrax engineers baffled. It was as though the humans had an intimate understanding of Vrax technology, exploiting vulnerabilities no one else had ever noticed. The surviving Vrax commanders began to realize the gravity of their situation. This wasn't a matter of raw firepower. The humans were dismantling their fleet from the inside out. They weren't merely fighting, they were learning, adapting, and evolving with every encounter. One commander's panicked report back to the Vrax homeworld captured the growing dread. They don't just counter us. They understand us. On Earth, the truth of humanity's strategy began to come to light. For years, they had focused not on building fleets or stockpiling weapons but on studying their potential adversaries. Every encounter with the Vrax was another opportunity to collect data, refine tactics, and deploy experimental technology. Chief among these was an advanced artificial intelligence, developed in secret, capable of infiltrating and manipulating alien systems. This AI, codenamed Egis, wasn't just a weapon, it was a revolutionary form of warfare. Unlike traditional AI, Egis didn't simply follow commands. It observed, analyzed, and adapted in real time, using its understanding of Vrax systems to disrupt their operations. It wasn't designed to destroy, it was designed to control. Ships disabled by Egis were often left intact, their crews unharmed but rendered powerless. This wasn't out of mercy but calculation. Humanity wanted the Vrax to know they were being restrained, that their defeat wasn't inevitable but orchestrated. The implications of this revelation rippled through the Vrax ranks. Their fleet, once a symbol of unassailable power, had become a liability. Every engagement gave the humans more data to refine their strategies. The more they fought, the weaker they became. Yet, retreat was not an option. For the Vrax, surrender was unthinkable. To admit defeat at the hands of a younger, less advanced species would shatter their image of invincibility and destabilize their standing in the Empire. Within the Galactic Council, the debate over humanity's actions reached a fever pitch. Some argued that Earth's refusal to negotiate and their deployment of such unprecedented technology posed a threat to the entire Empire. Others, however, saw humanity's defiance as a necessary challenge to the Vrax's unchecked dominance. For the first time in centuries, the Empire's culture of diplomacy and appeasement was called into question. If the Vrax could be resisted, why couldn't others follow suit? Amidst this growing tension, Earth made a bold move. They transmitted another message, this time directly to the Galactic Council. The message was simple but chilling in its clarity. We have no desire for war. But we will not bow to those who would take from us. To the Council, if you stand with the Vrax, then stand against us. If you stand aside, remember what you have witnessed. The statement was not a plea for alliance but a declaration of independence. Humanity was making it clear that they were no longer playing by the rules of the Empire. Their actions would not be dictated by ancient protocols or the will of more powerful species. They were forging their own path, and anyone who sought to challenge them would face the same fate as the Vrax. This message struck fear not just in the Vrax but in the Council itself. Humanity's words carried an implicit warning. They were willing to go further than anyone had before. The fact that they had chosen to hold back, to disable rather than destroy, only heightened the sense of dread. What would happen if humanity decided to escalate? What hidden capabilities had they yet to reveal? As the Vrax fleet continued to unravel, whispers of rebellion began to stir within the Empire. Other member species, long oppressed or overshadowed by the Vrax, saw an opportunity in humanity's defiance. If a young species like Earth could resist, perhaps they could too. The cracks in the Empire's unity widened, and for the first time in centuries, the possibility of large-scale conflict loomed on the horizon. But for humanity, this was not a victory to celebrate. Their strategy had been born out of necessity, not ambition. The leaders of Earth knew that their defiance would have consequences, that their actions would forever alter their relationship with the rest of the galaxy. Yet, they also understood that there could be no other way. To negotiate under threat would be to surrender their autonomy, to invite further exploitation. As the Vrax fleet finally began to retreat, their losses too great to sustain, one final message from Earth sealed their fate. Next time, we will not hold back. It was not a boast but a promise, one that echoed throughout the galaxy. Humanity had drawn a line, and in doing so, they had reshaped the very foundation of the Empire. The Vrax returned home, humiliated and broken, their once unshakable dominance reduced to a cautionary tale. For the Galactic Council, the fear of humanity lingered, a shadow over every decision they would make moving forward. And for Earth, a new era began, one where they stood not as a member of the Empire but as a force to be reckoned with, on their own terms. The Veltrax fleet limped back to their homeworld, their once proud warships now symbols of failure. Their defeat, a first in their long and storied history, was undeniable. No amount of propaganda or posturing could change the truth. They had been bested by a species the Empire had dismissed as insignificant. Whispers of discontent spread among the Veltrax populace, their confidence in their leaders shaken. For the first time in centuries, their dominance within the Empire was in question. The Galactic Council, which had largely supported the Veltrax's actions, now found itself in turmoil. Humanity's defiance had disrupted the carefully maintained balance of power. Member species questioned the Empire's reliance on diplomacy and appeasement, wondering if this approach had blinded them to the potential dangers of underestimating younger, more adaptive civilizations. The idea that strength alone could dictate terms began to lose its grip, replaced by a growing unease about humanity's rising influence. But humanity had no interest in basking in their victory. To Earth's leaders, this wasn't a triumph but a calculated step toward ensuring their survival. The Veltrax had retreated, but the threat of retribution from other factions within the Empire loomed large. While some species admired Earth's resolve, others viewed it as a destabilizing force, a rogue planet unwilling to adhere to the unspoken rules of galactic politics. Earth's decision to defy the Council had not only isolated them but also set them on a path fraught with uncertainty. Back on Earth, the mood was cautious. Celebrations were muted, replaced by a sense of grim determination. Humanity had survived the first test, but at great cost. Their economy, stretched thin by the demands of rapid militarization and technological development, teetered on the brink. Yet, there was no turning back. The Veltrax had forced humanity to show its hand, and now the galaxy knew they were no longer passive participants in the Empire's grand design. Earth's final broadcast to the galaxy was short but deliberate. Peace is not given, it is earned. Let this serve as a reminder to those who think strength alone can dictate terms. We are not the prey you seek. The message was a declaration of humanity's independence and a warning to any who might consider testing their resolve again. For the Council, it was a chilling statement. Humanity wasn't just defending itself, it was redefining the rules of engagement. The consequences of Earth's actions rippled outward. Member species began re-evaluating their own positions within the Empire. Many had long chafed under Veltrax's dominance but lacked the strength or courage to challenge it. Humanity's success, however tenuous, inspired them. Quiet alliances began to form, species exchanging messages of solidarity with Earth or subtly withdrawing their support for Veltrax initiatives. For the first time in centuries, the Empire faced the real possibility of internal dissent. Yet, Earth remained cautious about these overtures. Humanity understood that their defiance had placed a target on their back. Trusting too easily, forging alliances too quickly, could expose them to new vulnerabilities. Instead, they focused on consolidating their position, leveraging the technologies they had developed during the conflict to strengthen their defenses. The experimental AI Egis continued to evolve, its capabilities expanding with each passing day. What had been a tool of survival was now a cornerstone of Earth's strategy. Meanwhile, the Veltrax found themselves isolated. Their defeat at the hands of humanity had shaken their standing within the Council. Once seen as the Empire's unassailable enforcers, they were now a cautionary tale. Their calls for punitive action against Earth were met with silence or thinly veiled disinterest. The Council, once quick to align with Veltrax interests, now hesitated, unwilling to risk further conflict with a species that had proven both resourceful and unpredictable. For humanity, this shift in galactic dynamics presented both an opportunity and a challenge. The fear they had inspired was a double-edged sword. While it deterred immediate threats, it also isolated them further. Trade slowed, and diplomatic channels grew colder as species wary of humanity's intentions withdrew to assess their next moves. Earth's leaders knew they couldn't rely solely on fear to secure their place in the galaxy. They needed to demonstrate that their defiance wasn't a declaration of hostility but a demand for respect. In the months following the Veltrax retreat, Earth began to reshape its image. They reached out to sympathetic species, not with grand gestures but with quiet, calculated offers of mutual benefit. Scientific collaborations, cultural exchanges, and shared intelligence programs slowly began to repair the rift their defiance had created. Humanity's message was clear: they didn't seek to dominate the Empire, only to carve out a space where they could exist on their own terms. Still, the shadow of the Vrax lingered. Though their fleet was crippled, their pride remained unbroken. Rumors of a rearmament circulated, whispers of secret projects aimed at regaining their lost dominance. Earth's leaders monitored these developments closely, knowing that the Vrax would not forget their humiliation. Yet the Vrax faced their own internal struggles. Dissent within their ranks grew as factions blamed one another for their defeat. Their empire, once a symbol of unyielding strength, began to fracture under the weight of its own arrogance. As the galaxy adjusted to this new reality, Earth stood at a crossroads. The conflict with the Vrax had proven their resilience, but it had also revealed the fragility of their position. To survive in the long term, humanity would need to strike a delicate balance, projecting strength without becoming a threat, building alliances without compromising their independence. It was a challenge unlike any they had faced before, but it was one they were prepared to meet. The final legacy of humanity's defiance was not the defeat of the Vrax but the reshaping of the Empire itself. Their actions had exposed the cracks in the Council's authority, the limits of the Vrax's dominance, and the potential for resistance within even the smallest of species. They had reminded the galaxy that power wasn't just about technology or fleets, but about the will to stand firm in the face of overwhelming odds. In the end, fear rippled through the Galactic Empire, not because humanity had refused to negotiate, but because they had refused to be defined by the rules of others. They had shown that even in the face of insurmountable odds, strength could come from conviction, and that sometimes, the greatest victories were won not through force, but through the courage to say no.